Welcome to Section 5C. We're going to go over statistical tables and graphs. The first one is called a frequency table, and it's exactly what it sounds like, frequency. So the first thing we have is a list of data, A, C, C. So in this case, it's going to be grades from some sort of a project or test. And so I have my grades listed over here, and the frequency, I can do a tally, or I can just go through and count them by hand. A tally, I would just make a little tick mark for each of these. So if I count up all the A's, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. In fact, I've already found these, previously. So I have 4, 7, 9, 9, 3, and 2. So you go through and you count them. Now the next thing we need to do is find how many grades in total I have. So I would add all of these together and I get 25. The relative frequency, now remember, relative automatically you should be thinking is percent. So I want to take the frequency, or 4, and divide it by the total. So I'm going to do 4 divided by 25, and then find my percent by calculating or putting that in my calculator. And that's where Excel comes in handy, because this would easily fill it in for me. I'm going to fill that in a little later once we get into Excel. The next one, cumulative. Just like when we talk about a final test being cumulative, that means that I'm adding everything previous. This is the running total of the frequency. And at this column or row, I only have A's. So there's nothing previous. It's just going to be 4. But the next one, now I have something previous. The 7 and the 4. Adding those together gives me 11. My next one, for C, I had 9 C's, but I need to add everything previously as well, and so I'm going to add 9 plus 7 plus 4, or I already got those added together, which is 11, so I add the 9 in, which gives me 20. Adding the 3 gives me 23, and then adding in the 2 gives me 25, and you'll notice these should match. Which makes sense, because this total here is all of the frequencies added together. The cumulative, everything previous, once I get to the end, I should have all of them added together. Now this one's a little tricky. It says cumulative relative frequency. This means I'm going to be adding all the relative frequencies cumulatively, just like I did with the cumulative frequency. I need to make a very distinct differentiation between these, and you need to read what it's asking for, because I've had lots of assignments turned in where they've given me one or the other when it's asked for one or the other. Cumulative frequency, that means I'm adding only the frequencies. This is cumulative relative frequency, so I add the relative frequencies up. Don't get those mixed up. Now, again, you see the answers down here, but I'm going to go into Microsoft Excel and show just how easy it can be. So I'm going to copy this, actually, my table, and go put it into Microsoft Excel. Control V, and give these guys a little bit of room. Now that they're all fitting, double click and it'll fit them in. Now the reason I did this is so nice and easy. To find the total, I'm going to press sum and put a parenthesis and add these together instead of just adding each one individually. And relative frequency, again, making it work like a calculator, press equals. I need this divided by, my total is 25, but that's always going to be the total, so I'm going to press F4 for the absolute cell reference. I don't want to absolute cell reference the 4 because I want it to change with the A category, the B category, and so forth. So I'm going to press enter, and now that this is good to go, I'm going to get my crosshairs, bring it down, and there we go. Those are my relative frequency. And we all know that decimals are also the same as percent, but let's go ahead and format the cells just for our sake, and we'll do 2 decimal places. Sure, we can, although we don't really need to. These are all going to work out nicely. There we go. Now for the cumulative relative frequency, it means I'm adding my relative frequencies in a running total. So I'm going to start at 16, or I can just reference it, 16%. Now this one, I need to add my previous one. So I'm going to reference this and add my previous one. Then I need to reference this one and add it to the previous total, my running total. Equals this plus my previous total. Any idea what my final cumulative relative frequency will be? I think you've probably figured it out by now. It should equal 100%. And if I had left these as decimals, the cumulative relative frequency would equal 1. And I could have done the same thing on this one, but we did this one by hand, so I can get rid of these. My running total, I could just say 4, and then reference equals my new plus all of the frequencies. Or if I wanted to do it a little differently, I could say equals the sum of everything that and beyond. I could have done that way. Either way, once I have it going, I can drop and pull and it'll fill it in the rest of the way for me. And then I can just highlight this, copy and paste it back into here, which is what I've done here. Again, like we said, if we wanted to total the relative frequency, in either case, I'm going to get 100% or 1. Now some people, when they get down to the cumulative frequency and it asks for the total, they add these two together, the 25 and the and add it to make it 50, and that doesn't make sense. Your total is already here. So in that case, it's already finished for you. This one, the total, you would have to add them. All right, let's move on to qualitative versus quantitative. Qualitative is non-numerical categories. Qualitative, or quality, the quality of the information being given. Quantitative is numbers, the quantity. So if you break it down and think quality versus quantity, and that gives us the category that it would go in. So if I have the colors of cars, is this qualitative information or quantitative? Car colors? That's definitely a quality, the quality of what you're looking at. The number of BYU Idaho students who love flip-flops, despite them being against the honor code. The number of students, the number of BYU Idaho students, well, that would be the quantity of BYU Idaho students. And the last one, film rating on a scale from 1 to 5. Film rating. Now it is talking about numbers, but these numbers are representative of the rating about this film. So in that case, the numbers are representing the quality of it and not necessarily the quantity. All right, the next example is about binning data. A bin gives us a range of values from something to something. So over here, and you can choose whatever bin you like. I could do bins of 2, bins of 5, bins of 10, and I would find my smallest number. In this case, I have 70s, 80s, and 90s. So I'm going to do bins of 5, starting at 70. And a lot of you are going to think, well, if it's a bin of 5, it should go to 75. But remember, 70 is a number. So let's count 70 using your fingers. I know it's a little elementary, but you have 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. That is a bin of 5. And then you start at the next one, 75 to 80. Oops. 79, then 80 to 84, 85 to 89, 90 to 94, and 95 to 99. All right. Again, we're going to just fill in our frequencies. So I'm going to go through and count all of those that fall in between 70 and 74. I have 1, 2, 3, and it looks like I should have one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, 4. And we'll fill it in just like I filled in the frequency table above. Now this one, you could go through some Excel formulas. It gets really messy though, so these ones are something that would be easier done by hand than trying to go into Excel and figuring out. And I have them counted, and just for the sake of time, we'll fill these in. And 1. And then my total, just like I would in Excel, type in add or sum, and we could do that. Let's copy these guys and go back into Excel. It'll speed us up. And we're a little squishy in here. Okay, double clicking and that'll help us auto fit. Okay, so now I want the sum to find the total of all of my frequencies here. Then my relative frequency, again, reference this and divide it by my total, and because that total will always be the total, I do an absolute cell reference of F4, and now this is good to go. So I'm going to click and drag, and those are my relatives, but it isn't in a percentage form, so I can format those. Oh, 2 decimal places, it's a little bit of an overkill, so let's get rid of those. Cumulative frequency, again, I'm going to be adding everything previous, and I'm going to do this plus my previous one, and I don't need any absolute cell references, and because it's going to be adding with the previous one, I can just click and drag now that the formula is in there, and I double check. The cumulative frequency matches my total, and the total here is 20. I don't need to add the last two together because that end one is the final. If I wanted to add these, I could press sum. Actually, show you something different. I'm going to drag it this way. I did a sum of everything previous, and I'm doing a sum of everything previous. So it should be 1 or 100% if I format that as a percent. And that's up to you. Now the cumulative, meaning I'm adding everything previous, the cumulative relative frequency, so I'm going to add this one equals this one plus my previous, and now that I have that form or equation written into Excel, I can just click and drag, and my total down here is 100%, or if you're talking about a decimal, again, you can also press 1, and then I can copy and paste this back into here, which I've done for my frequencies. Now remember, cumulative means adding, so if it wants the cumulative frequency, you just add the previous ones, and the total is already given to you. Cumulative relative frequency, meaning I'm adding the relative frequencies as a running total. Let's move on to Roman numeral 2, bar graphs and pie charts. This first one's a bar graph, and it's for qualitative data, meaning that it's just categories of colors or sizes or different things like that. In this case, I have my bar graph of my frequencies up here in my first example, 4, 7, 9, 3, and 2. And here we are, 4, 7, 9, 3, and 2. To create one of these, we can come in and put the information in. Grade A, B, C, D, and F 4, 7, 9, 3, 2. Then I highlight these and press Insert. In this case, I'm going to do column. There we go. And I can change what I want it to look like. And I can change the format over here as well. If I want a title on the top, I like this one here because then I have, oops, where is it? This one, because it gives me a chart title. It didn't give me my side one though. There it is. So then I can go through and change things and put final grades. Oops. Final grades, or grade from a certain thing, and then I can put over here, this was frequency, the frequency of the grade. There we go. And I don't need this in here, so I'm just going to delete that. Alright, so I can go through and I can create my graph however I want it to look. Make it black on the background, give it some shading, and then copy and paste it into my work. A pie chart's done in the same way. We can come in here and highlight the same information and insert a pie chart. I like this one. It looks more like what we're doing in class. And again, I can format it to look fancy and give it a chart title and different things like that. Then copy and paste it in. The labels that you need on your charts, you can have the title and caption, the vertical scale and title, the horizontal scale and title, and those are automatically given to you in Microsoft Excel, and you can change some of those. By decreasing this, you'll see that my scale has changed. Making it larger gives me more numbers to work with, so that's given to you in Excel on those ones. And of course the legend, and you can pick that when you format. And you'll also need to be able to read and interpret these as well. Number 2, or D, carbon dioxide emissions in the countries and the millions of metric tons, and how much that means per person. And here we go down in these ones. I can just type in my information, but because I have, I'm just going to copy and paste this into Microsoft Excel. Control V, and then I can insert any chart that I want, and it gives me my qualitative data, not quantitative, because quality gives me the references down there. Alright, so I can do the CO2 emissions, and then I would need to give my vertical title and the horizontal, and over this one would be CO2 emissions. Make sure I title it per person, which is different than this one, and also note that the emissions are in metric tons, and then the title or the caption and the title of the vertical and the horizontal in this one, it's country. Alright, here's another pie chart. In this one's pretty straightforward and something that would be easily done by hand, but you aren't going to be turning these in by hand. In fact, I don't think you have to turn in any of these. You would highlight your data or type it in to Microsoft Excel. Oh, it didn't do it any. So we'll have to type this one. The Democrat, Republican, Independent, and type in the information. This was 25%. This was also 25%. And this is 50%. These have to add up to 100 to make your pie chart work. Insert pie chart. There we go. And again, you can format it however you want. I like different colors because it's easier to see, especially in on the computer. You don't know what everyone's computer looks like. And then type in your information. I can do this one, or I can choose this one right here. We'll put my percentages and the titles within the chart, and then I can title my chart of I can title my chart of being the registered voters in some county. County. There we go. All right, again, another pie chart, and you'll type in your information, just like we did here. Over here, we would have each of their majors, and then the frequency, or the percent. Highlight those, and insert your pie chart. Same information, except used as a bar graph. Now we call this a bar graph. In Excel, it is considered a column. The bar is horizontal, and I know that gets confusing, but it is considered a bar graph in our book. If I wanted to change my bar graph, now a bar graph is with qualitative data. If I wanted to change this to quantitative data and make it a histogram, I would do my column. Let's go ahead and do this. Insert a column, and if I wanted to make a histogram, I would choose this feature here. Now mine, of course, is not qualitative data, it's quantitative data, but just so you can see how to make a histogram. And these are really confusing to see where the cutoff is in between those. So I highly recommend choosing one of these down here so that you can see where the dividing is for each of the columns or the bars. All right, let's move to the next one. Oh, histograms. There we go. There's our histogram. So for a histogram, this is when you use binned data, because I'm moving from one point or one number to the next, and then there's nothing in between, or I need my next to start immediately thereafter. So if I'm going from 70 to 74, my next one starts at 75, like we did on our exam scores previously. And so this one, 75 to 79, and then there's nothing in between 79 and 80, and so forth. So I'm going to come up and highlight those again. Here we go. And I'm just going to highlight these two, bring them into Excel. Control V, there we go. Highlight both columns, insert a column, but I want this to be a histogram because my binned data needs to show that there's nothing in between those, but I do need to choose one of those at the bottom so that there's a differentiation in between each of the bars so that I can see the frequency. And it looks very similar, if not exactly like these ones. Oh, that one is slightly different, so I must have chosen a different format. A line chart is the exact same as the histogram. You'll see that the frequencies are shown on the line versus having bars. And if I were to take the middle point of the height at each of these, it would be the exact same outline of my line chart. And both of these show that I am moving consecutively with the numbers, and it must be quantitative data, not qualitative, because it's moving through the numbers. All right. Oh, here's another example showing that our histogram and the line chart are the exact same. So it's showing that the height here, here, and here follow the same as this one, and it's the middle at the height of each of these bars. All right, the next one is called a time series diagram, and this one is our last one. This right here shows the difference between all of these, and it's also showing the timeline for each of these in this investment. All right, those are all of the charts and diagrams that we're going through in section 5C. If you have questions, feel free to email me, and good luck on your homework.